The most common question I've gotten over my 25 years of advising people is not what you think it is. It's not, did I start saving too late? Or have I saved enough? Or should I put money in my Roth 401k versus my traditional IRA? It's a decision that can cost people lost wealth without a well thought out strategy. And most people make this decision based upon emotion, not math. If you stick around to the end of this video, you'll have all the tools to help you make this important wealth decision without losing potential wealth and future financial security. So let's dive right into it. In this video, we're tackling one of the most emotionally charged financial decisions you'll face. Should you pay off your mortgage before you retire or keep investing that money? So let's just start with a quick story that perfectly kind of illustrates this dilemma. 5 years ago, I had two clients. They were a brother and sister, both 58 years old. Both had $200,000 left on their mortgages at a 3.5% rate of interest and received a $200,000 inheritance each. One of them chose to pay off their mortgage completely, but the other chose to invest that same $200,000 in a diversified portfolio. When you fast forward to today, just 5 years later, the difference in their net worth is already really significant. But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just a math problem. It's kind of a psychology problem. So wealth decision principle number 1, security is not the absence of debt, it's the presence of options. Conventional wisdom says debt is bad, but sophisticated investors understand that not all debt is created equal. Your mortgage might be the cheapest money you'll ever borrow, especially if you locked in rates during the recent historic lows. But think about it this way. If someone offered to lend you $300,000 at 3% interest for 30 years and you could invest that and get an average rate of return between 8 and 10%, would you take that deal? Now, obviously, if you have a mortgage that is 6 or 7%, that's a different story. And we'll dive into that later in this video. But coming up next, I'll reveal the 3-part framework I use with clients to make this decision, plus the tax deduction myth that is costing most retirees thousands of dollars in lost wealth. So before we dive into the framework, let's destroy the biggest myth about mortgage interest deductions. Most financial advisors tell you to keep your mortgage because it's tax deductible. But here's the reality. Most retirees don't benefit from mortgage interest deductions at all. Since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act increased the standard deduction, now in 2025 at $30,000 for married couples and $15,000 for single filers, and with the Trump's big beautiful tax bill, it will be $31,500 for married couples and $15,750 for single filers. The majority of retirees are taking the standard deduction. So unless your mortgage interest and other deductions and charitable giving combined exceed these amounts, you're getting zero benefit from your mortgage. So this changes things a bit. If you're not itemizing that 4% mortgage, it's actually costing you the full 4%, not some reduced after-tax rate that financial planners love to calculate. So here's the 3-part framework I use with clients to help make this important decision. Number 1, the real interest rate analysis. Forget about the theoretical tax savings. What's your mortgage actually costing you? If you're taking the standard deduction, it's the full interest rate, period. Number 2, the opportunity cost reality. Let's say you have $200,000 and a mortgage at 4%. If you pay off the mortgage, your guaranteed rate of return is 4%. That's what you save in interest. But if you invest that $200,000 in a portfolio averaging 8% annually, you're potentially earning an extra 4% or $8,000 per year, which can add up over long periods of time. And number 3 is the liquidity test. Having $200,000 invested gives you flexibility that a paid-off house doesn't. You can't eat equity. Now, if your mortgage is a big part of your expenses and you want to retire early, that's another story. And we'll discuss some strategies for that situation later in this video. So this leads me to wealth decision principle number 2. Liquidity is the ultimate luxury in retirement. Coming up next, I'll share the surprising research why keeping your mortgage might actually make you a better, more disciplined investor, plus the cash flow trap that prevents early retirement. So let's talk a little bit about the psychology of money and the cash flow reality. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on behavioral finance, discovered something called loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing money twice as strongly as we feel the pleasure of gaining it. This is why paying off your mortgage feels so good. It eliminates a monthly loss from your cash flow. But here's the counterintuitive part. Research shows that people that keep their mortgages and invest the difference actually become more disciplined, better investors. Why? Because they're forced to confront market volatility on a regular basis. They develop what I call market calluses, the psychological toughness to stay invested during market downturns. Meanwhile, people who pay off their mortgage often struggle to invest aggressively afterward because they've trained themselves to prioritize safety over growth. So this leads me to wealth decision principle number 3. Comfort is the enemy of wealth. Embrace calculated discomfort. But here's a scenario where paying off your mortgage makes perfect sense. If you're the type of person who would spend that mortgage payment instead of investing it, then pay off the house. Behavioral finance teaches us that the best financial strategy is the one you'll actually stick to. Now, let me address the elephant in the room, especially for early retirement seekers. If you're planning to retire before Social Security kicks in, especially if your mortgage payment represents over 35% of your monthly expenses, the math changes pretty dramatically. Here's a real scenario from my practice. Let's call her Jennifer. She's age 55 and wants to retire early at age 58. She has about $800,000 invested, which could generate about $32,000 annually using the 4% rule. But her mortgage payment is $2,800 per month. That's $33,600 per year, which is more than her entire portfolio income. She literally cannot retire without eliminating the mortgage payment first. This is what I call the cash flow trap. You might have substantial net worth, but if your fixed expenses exceed your investment income, you're not financially free. You're financially stuck. This is where Dave Ramsey's advice makes a ton of sense. Now, let me tell you about another client. We'll call him Robert. He's age 60. He wants to retire at age 65. He has a $3,200 monthly mortgage payment with only 4 years left on a 30-year loan. His remaining balance is about $125,000, which is pretty common for folks approaching retirement. But that payment is eating up a huge chunk of his cash flow. Robert's thinking is, should I pay off this $125,000 now or keep investing since I only have 4 years of payments? This is the short-term mortgage paradox. And the answer may surprise you. If Robert pays off the mortgage now, he saves about $150,000 in payments over the next 4 years, $3,200 times 48 months. But if he invests that $125,000 instead and continues making payments, he would potentially have $170,000 in 4 years, assuming an 8% rate of return. The key insight here is when you have less than 5 years left on your mortgage, the opportunity cost of paying it off early becomes much smaller because you're not giving up decades of compound growth. You're only giving up a few years. Now, here's the short-term mortgage reality. If you have 4 years left on your mortgage and want to retire in 5 years, paying it off early only costs you 1 year of investment growth versus 25 plus years if you had just started that mortgage. The opportunity cost math completely changes when the timeline is short, especially if your mortgage payment is high and represents more than 35% of your expenses. Coming up in the final segment, I'll share the exact 7-question test I use with clients to help make this decision, plus 4 actionable strategies you can implement today, regardless of what path you choose. So here's the 7-question decision framework. Number 1, are you actually getting a tax deduction from your mortgage? If your total itemized deductions don't exceed your standard deduction, you're getting 0 tax benefit. This is probably the most important question because it determines your real interest rate. Number 2, what's your mortgage rate versus the expected investment returns? If your mortgage rate is above 6% and you're not getting tax benefits, the math tips strongly towards paying it off. If it's below 4%, investing wins. If you're between 4 and 6%, then possibly using an approach I'll discuss later in the 4 actionable strategies would make the most sense. Number 3, how much emergency funds do you have outside of your home equity? If paying off your mortgage would leave you with less than 6 months of expenses in liquid savings, don't do it. Number 4, how does this decision affect your overall asset allocation? If your house represents more than 40% of your net worth, paying it off might create kind of a dangerous concentration risk. And number 5, does your mortgage payment exceed 35% of your target retirement income? If yes, you might need to pay it off to make early retirement mathematically possible. This is especially critical if you're planning to retire before age 62 and won't have Social Security as a backup. And number 6, do you have less than 5 years left on your mortgage? If yes, the math changes pretty significantly with a short-term payoff timeline. You're not sacrificing decades of compound growth, making the decision more about cash flow timing than long-term wealth optimization. And number 7, can you sleep at night? With market volatility, this is kind of a tiebreaker. If market swings keep you awake, then pay off your mortgage. The guaranteed return of paying off your mortgage might be worth more than the math advantage of investing. Obviously, everyone's situation is different, but here's 4 actionable strategies to maximize the outcome. Strategy number 1, the tax reality check. Calculate whether you're actually benefiting from your mortgage interest deduction. Add up your mortgage interest and your other deductions. If your total is less than the standard deduction, you're getting 0 tax benefit. This single calculation might change your entire decision. Strategy number 2, this is one of my favorites, the hybrid approach. Don't make it all or nothing. Consider splitting the difference, especially if your mortgage real interest rate is between 4.5% to 5.5%. If you have an extra $100,000 in savings that you could use to pay off your mortgage, put $50,000 towards the mortgage and $50,000 into investments. This satisfies both your emotional need for security and your logical need for growth. Strategy number 3 is the short timer strategy. If you have less than 5 years left on your mortgage and plan to retire soon after, potentially pay off the mortgage. If the payment represents more than 35% of your retirement needs, the opportunity cost is minimal and the cash flow benefit is immediate. Strategy number 4, the early retirement accelerator. If you're targeting early retirement and your mortgage payment is high, consider an aggressive approach. Focus every dollar on mortgage payoff for 3 to 5 years. Then redirect that full mortgage payment into investments once it's gone. This creates a massive cash flow boost that can accelerate your path to reaching your goals. For example, if you eliminate a $2,500 mortgage payment and immediately invest that $2,500 monthly, you're adding $30,000 per year to your investment portfolio, potentially reaching your retirement goals sooner than the traditional approach. So when you look at all this is a big decision. It's an emotionally charged decision. But sometimes the mathematical optimal choice isn't always the right choice for your specific situation. I always tell my clients the best financial plan is the one you can stick to for 20 plus years, not the one that looks perfect on paper. So if this episode has you questioning your current strategy or your current thoughts when it comes to paying off your mortgage, don't let analysis paralysis cost you money. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me by going to momentouswealthadvisors.com, and I'll run the exact numbers and show you what this decision can mean for your retirement timeline, including whether you're actually getting any tax benefits from your mortgage. So that's it for today's episode. Should I pay off my mortgage before I retire or continue to invest? Next week, we're going back to the Lisa and Mark scenario and focus on what Mark could have done from a financial planning perspective to make his retirement situation better off for himself and his family. Until next time, remember every day is the opportunity to make better decisions around our money and our life. So make them count. And I would love if you pre-ordered my new book, Momentous Decisions, 7 Steps to Better Health, More Wealth, and a Richer Life. You can find the pre-order link in the description of this podcast. And once again, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a family member. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and maybe make a comment. My goal with the Wealth Decisions podcast is to reach over 100,000 people in the Twin Cities and beyond so people can live a richer life. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.